There is a scene that plays out in workshops all over this country, and if you ever saw it happen to your own car, your stomach would drop. A mechanic lifts the bonnet, he has a look, and then he goes quiet. He does not reach for a spanner. He steps back, wipes his hands, and tells the owner, as gently as he can, that he will not take this one on. Not because he cannot fix it, because he knows exactly what is coming if he does, and he does not want his name anywhere near it. Before we go any further, one quick thing. This is not financial advice, and it is not a personal attack on anyone who owns one of these cars. Everything here is based on documented recalls, class action investigations, and the kind of failures mechanics see again and again. The numbers and the patterns are real, and I will tell you where they come from. But reliability always depends on servicing, on luck, and on how a car was treated by the people who had it before you. A well-maintained example of any of these can absolutely beat the odds. What I am giving you is the pattern, not a guarantee about your specific car. And here is the thing to keep in your head the whole way through. A mechanic refusing a job is almost never about skill. It is about risk. When someone who fixes engines for a living does not want to touch a particular engine, that tells you something no brochure ever will. Let me explain why that even happens, because it is not what most people think. When a workshop takes on an engine job, they are not just charging you for the hours, they are staking their name on the outcome. If a mechanic opens up an engine with a known design flaw, fixes the thing you came in for, and then a separate, related part lets go 3 weeks later, guess who the owner blames? Not the car maker who built the flaw in, the mechanic who touched it last. So with certain engines, the experienced ones have learned the hard way that the job is a trap. The repair leads to another repair. The customer gets angrier with every bill, and the workshop ends up wearing a reputation hit for a problem they did not create. That is the real reason a good mechanic sometimes says no. He is not scared of the work. He is scared of being the last name on the invoice when an engine that was doomed from the factory finally gives up. Keep that in mind as we go, because every engine on this list is one where that trap is real. So let us start the countdown, and I am starting with one that is going to surprise a few of you because people pay extra for this badge. Number 10. The Volkswagen and Audi 2-liter turbo petrol, the one they call the EA888 in a certain generation. Now this is the engine humming away under the bonnet of a lot of Golf GTIs, a lot of Audi A4s, a lot of Tigans, premium German engineering. The badge people spend extra money to park in the driveway. And here is the dirty secret that mechanics know and the showroom never mentions. A whole run of these engines developed a serious appetite for oil, not a little. We are talking about cars that could drink a liter of oil every 1,000 kilometers, to the point where Volkswagen themselves quietly acknowledged the consumption problem. Pair that with timing chain tensioners that could fail and let the chain jump, and you have an engine that can destroy itself if the owner is not religiously topping up the oil between services. So why does a mechanic hesitate? Because by the time one of these lands in the workshop, the damage from running low on oil is often already done deep inside the engine, and no amount of labor fixes a bottom end that has been starved. That is the gentle start to this list, a premium badge that bleeds oil. But hold on, because the next one is a luxury engine that comes with a stopwatch built in. Number 9. The Land Rover and Jaguar 2-liter Ingenium, particularly the diesel. This is the engine in a lot of Discovery Sports, Evoques, and Velours, cars that cost a fortune, that sit in nice suburbs, that look like the picture of success. And underneath, mechanics have watched these develop two problems that make them flinch. The first is timing chain stretch. On a lot of these, the timing chain was mounted at the back of the engine, and when it starts to stretch, you get that telltale rattle, and fixing it is a brutal, labor-heavy job because of where it sits. The second is oil dilution, where unburnt diesel sneaks past and thins the oil out, which then accelerates wear on everything the oil is supposed to protect. So you have a luxury car, out of warranty, with a known timing problem that is expensive just to access, let alone repair. A mechanic looks at that and does the maths in his head. The repair bill can climb past what the car is even worth. And that is exactly why some of them would rather wave it on than be the one holding the bad news. Now, that is 2 premium badges down. The next one was built right here, and it broke a lot of Australian hearts. Number 8. The Holden Cruise, with that little 1.4-liter turbo petrol. And this one stings, because for a while there the Cruise was built in South Australia. It was ours. It was meant to be the small car that kept local manufacturing alive. But the engine and the car around it became a recall magnet. Over the years, more than 50,000 Cruises were recalled in this country, which is more than a third of all the ones ever sold here. The reasons read like a horror list: oil that could drip onto hot exhaust parts and start a fire, vacuum and crankcase problems that triggered warning noises and brake concerns, the little turbo and its plumbing throwing up issue after issue. Now, a mechanic can fix any one of these things. The problem is the pattern. When a car comes in with one of these faults, the experienced ones know there is rarely just one. It is a car that tends to nickel and dime an owner to death, one repair leading to the next, until the bills add up to more than the thing is worth. And a good mechanic does not want to be the bloke who keeps taking your money to keep a sinking ship afloat. Remember how I said this list goes from bad to catastrophic? We are about to leave the merely annoying behind, because the next one does not just cost you money, it can take the whole engine with it. Number 7. The Ford 1-liter EcoBoost, the little 3-cylinder turbo, and specifically its wet belt design. Now this engine won awards. It went into the Fiesta, the Focus, the EcoSport, the Puma. Small, frugal, clever, but Ford made one design decision that has mechanics shaking their heads to this day. They ran the timing belt inside the engine, soaked in oil. They call it a wet belt. The idea was that it would be quieter and last the life of the engine. The reality, for a lot of owners, was very different. Over time, that rubber belt sitting in oil can start to break down, and as it degrades, little bits of it shed off and get sucked into the oil pickup. Once that happens, the belt material clogs the oil pump, the oil flow chokes, and the engine starves itself of lubrication. And a starved engine does not limp, it dies. The problem got so widespread that Ford issued warranty extensions, and in the United States, the federal safety regulator opened an investigation into the oil pumps on these engines. So picture the mechanic's dilemma. An owner brings one in with a warning light. To even find out if the belt has started shedding, you are pulling the thing apart, and if it has, you are often looking at a replacement engine. He knows that, you do not, and he does not want to be the one to tell you after he has already started charging you. Now we are properly into the danger zone. The next two are a pair, and they belong to a brand a lot of Australians swear by. Number 6. The Subaru 2.5-liter, the EJ25 Boxer. In the older Outbacks, Foresters, and Imprezas, Subaru people are loyal people, and for good reason. But every long-time Subaru mechanic in this country knows the EJ25's dirty little weakness: head gaskets. These flat Boxer-style engines became infamous for letting their head gaskets go, often well before 100,000 kilometers, leaking coolant and oil where the two should never meet. And because of the layout of the engine, getting in to do the job properly is a big, time-consuming pull-apart. Now here is the part that makes a mechanic wary. Plenty of owners, when they get quoted for the proper repair, ask for the cheap patch-up instead, and a good mechanic knows that a half-done head gasket job on one of these is a comeback waiting to happen, an unhappy customer waiting to happen, and his reputation on the line for someone else's decision to cut corners. So some of them would simply rather not start. And if you think a leaky head gasket is bad, wait until you hear what the diesel version of this same brand could do, because number 5 is the one that genuinely scares people. Number 5. The Subaru 2-liter Boxer Diesel, the EE20. And this one is almost unique to markets like ours, because Australia, Europe, and Japan got this engine while plenty of other markets never did. It was a clever thing on paper, the world's first proper Boxer diesel in a passenger car. Lovely torque, smooth. But it hid a genuinely frightening flaw. The crankshaft, the big spinning spine at the heart of any engine, was prone to cracking, fracturing near the rear main bearing, and it could happen without much warning at all, often somewhere between 80 and 130,000 kilometers. When a crankshaft lets go, that is not a repair, that is the end of the engine. To replace it, you are pulling the whole motor out, and the bill runs into many thousands of dollars, frequently more than the car is worth at that age. So when one of these rolls in, especially one with no clear service history, a cautious mechanic does not want to put his hands on it because he cannot promise you it will not grenade itself next week, and he does not want that conversation. Now that is the European and Japanese end of the list dealt with. From here on, we are into the engines that sit in the cars Australians buy more than any other. The utes, the four-wheel drives, the workhorses. And this is where it gets personal, because the odds that you, or someone you know, owns the next few go right up. Number 4. The Hyundai and Kia Theta 2, the 2-liter and 2.4-liter GDI petrol. These went into a huge spread of cars. The Hyundai i4-5, the Santa Fe, the Tucson, the Kia Optima, the Sportage. Sensible, popular, family cars. And this engine is at the center of one of the biggest reliability stories in the world, and it is live right here in Australia. The problem is in the bottom end. Tiny bits of metal debris left over from the way the engines were machined at the factory can restrict oil flow to the connecting rod bearings, starve those bearings, and you get knocking, then seizing, and in the worst cases, fires. This triggered enormous recalls overseas and a multi-billion-dollar settlement in the United States. And in Australia, law firms have been running class action investigations over these exact engine failures, gathering owners whose engines let go. So this is not internet rumor. This is lawyers in this country building cases. A mechanic seeing one of these come in with a knock from the bottom end knows there is no cheap fix. The bottom end is the engine, and he knows that if he opens his mouth and quotes the real number, he becomes the villain in that owner's day. Easier for some to simply send it down the road. Now hold on, because the next one is a name that means toughness to a lot of Australians, and that is what makes its reputation so painful. Number 3. The Nissan diesels, the YD25 in the Navara and Pathfinder, and especially the ZD30 that found its way into patrols and others. Now, Nissan 4-wheel drives are legends in this country. People take them to the middle of nowhere and trust their lives to them. But these particular diesels carry a reputation among mechanics that is the stuff of campfire stories. The YD25 became known for injector problems and overheating, the kind of thing that, left alone, cooks an engine in our heat and over our distances. And the ZD3, oh well, the ZD30 earned a nickname you will hear in workshops that I will keep polite because of its tendency to overspeed and let go in spectacular terminal fashion, particularly when things like the fuel system or the breather were not kept on top of. The cruel part is that these engines go into vehicles people take a long way from help. A mechanic in a regional town has very likely seen one of these come back on a tilt tray. So when an unknown one rolls in, especially a high-kilometer example bound for the outback, a careful mechanic does not want to sign off on something that might strand a family 500 kilometers from the nearest town. The stakes are just too high. And that brings us to the final 2. These are the newest, the most common, and the most likely to be sitting in your driveway as you watch this. Number 2 is so current that the recall is barely cold. Number 2. The Ford Ranger and Everest 3-liter V6 turbo diesel, the one they call the Lion. This is a near-new engine in one of the most popular vehicles in the entire country, and that is exactly what makes it land on this list so heavily. In 2025, Ford recalled more than 13,000 Rangers and Everests in Australia fitted with this engine because of a manufacturing defect where a camshaft sprocket, a critical timing component, could fracture. And when that happens, the engine can suddenly stop, lose all power while you are driving. Ford's own recall notice spelled out the danger that a sudden loss of power while driving raises the risk of a crash. Now think about who owns these. Families towing caravans, tradies with a full load, people doing 110 on the highway with the kids in the back. An engine that can simply stop is a terrifying prospect in that setting. Yes, the recall exists to fix it, and if your vehicle is affected, you should absolutely have it done. But mechanics get wary around a brand new engine that has already had a serious timing failure recall because it tells them the design had a weak point from the factory, and they have learned the hard way that the first recall is not always the last word, which leaves only one. The single engine that more Australians have under the bonnet right now than anything else on this list, and it is the one with the longest list of workshop horror stories of them all. Number 1. The Ford Ranger and Mazda BT50 diesels of the previous generation, the 3.2-liter 5-cylinder, and its smaller, cleverer, and more troublesome sibling, the 2-liter bi-turbo. Now I want to be fair, because these utes were enormously popular, and a lot of them have done huge kilometers without drama. But ask any diesel mechanic in this country which engine fills their workshop, and a great many of them will point straight here, because the sheer number on our roads, combined with a long list of known weak spots, makes it the one they see fail more than any other. Where do I start? The diesel particulate filter and the EGR cooler, mounted in spots that made them prone to clogging and cracking, injectors that suffer with anything less than perfect fuel, turbochargers that wear, intercooler hoses that split, oil pump concerns on the 3.2, leaks from the rear main seal. And on the 2-liter bi-turbo, Ford went and used a wet timing belt, the very same belt in oil concept that put a smaller engine at number 7 on this list, in a hard-working ute that tows and hauls. Mechanics have seen these engines need replacement at kilometers that should be nowhere near the end of a diesel's life, while others soldier onto 300,000 or 400,000, and that unpredictability is the whole problem. A mechanic cannot look at one and promise you which kind you have got. So when a high-kilometer one with a patchy history comes in making the wrong noise, plenty of them would rather not open that door because they know how deep it can go, and they do not want to be holding the bill when it does. That is the #1 engine Australian mechanics quietly back away from, and it is sitting in driveways all over this country. So let me pull this together, because the point of this was never just to scare you, it was to arm you. Every single engine on this list shares one thing. The warning signs were known to the trade long before the average owner ever heard a whisper. So here is what you actually do with all this. If you own one of these, the single most powerful thing you can do is be religious about servicing, especially oil changes, because nearly every failure on this list gets worse, faster, when the oil is old or low. If you are buying one, do not, under any circumstances, hand over money without a proper pre-purchase inspection from an independent mechanic, and ask specifically about the known weak point for that engine, the head gasket, the wet belt, the injectors, the timing component, whatever it is. Get a compression test. Ask to see a real service history, not a promise. And if the seller will not allow an inspection, walk away, because that refusal is telling you everything. The people who get caught by these engines are almost always the ones who found out about the problem after they bought the car. The ones who stay safe are the ones who knew what to look for before they signed. Now, all of this raises the obvious flip side, and it is the question I get asked the most. If these are the engines mechanics run away from, then which engines do they actually trust? Which ones will a good mechanic happily buy for his own family? The ones that quietly rack up 300,000 and 400,000 kilometers and just refuse to die? I have put together exactly that list in the next video, and it is on the screen for you right now, because knowing what to avoid is only half the battle. Knowing what to actually buy is the half that saves you. Have a look before you make your next move, because in this game, the people who know the engine before they buy the car are the ones who never end up stranded.